So you didn't tell the truth.
Did you ever hear of a crook who did?
This week's movie, Who Am I? When humanity finds a mysterious object, I am sent into space to find out its significance. But in my journey, I discover so much more than I bargained for, and perhaps even the meaning of life. Stay tuned to find out. You're listening to the Banana Reel Movie Podcast, episode 37. Warning, this show contains spoilers and coarse language, so you've been forewarned. Hey there, folks. We are the Theatre Gorillas. My name is Carlos.
I'm Heath.
I'm Dan.
I'm Lee.
And each and every week we get together and tell you what we think of certain movies we've seen throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, it actually came out.
Yeah, that actually sounded
It
reasonable.
didn't just come out of...
Yeah, I know.
I missed something, didn't I?
No, every time I try and describe what we do each and every week, it just sounds better in my head.
We get together in a small room and wank.
Verbally.
Yeah, metaphorically, sorry.
Yeah, metaphorically.
No soggy sailor?
Pass.
Pass. Bag's not.
Okay. Shit. Anyway, you can get us at our website, theatregorillas.com, or Twitter is @theatregorillas, facebook.com/theatregorillas. We're on YouTube now, so just search for our name, or you can send us an email if you want to write to us, which is theatregorillas@gmail.com, all spelt the UK English way.
Yeah.
So, this week we took a look at...
Queen and country represent.
Yeah. Yeah. Straight from the Commonwealth.
Monarchy for life.
Dear God, save the Queen.
There's the knuckle dusters with fucking crown jewels on them.
So this week we took a look at DC's latest animated film, which is Batman Bad Blood.
Yes.
Now, this is the actual third installment for this run of characters and the New 52 in terms of the films.
Yes. Well, yes.
Well, it is.
Yeah, it is. It's...
Off the bat, yeah.
We've got some misgivings, apparently.
Yeah, off the bat, this is what I want to clarify. So you were saying, Heath, that it's not following the comic book storyline?
Yeah, not
directly.
Not directly. So
it borrows heavily.
Borrows heavily?
Yeah.
Yeah. I might wait till I give my little things on this because
Heath has some real issues.
I really
here,
did. Look, that's right. This is the third in the DC run. You know, they started with it was Batman. You had Batman and Son, Batman and Robin, the Son of Batman, Batman and Robin, and then this film here, Batman Bad Blood.
Was it Batman versus Robin?
Yes,
it was. Sorry,
Robin.
Batman versus Robin, and yeah.
Just get into it, man. We can always come back to and double check.
Essentially what they've been trying to do, and it's since, when they first brought these movies out, they started, let's say DC started doing the, animated films, the direct-to-video animated films. They were always generally heavily based on a comic. So you had your Batman Year One, you had your Batman The Dark Knight Returns, you had your Batman and Superman Public Enemies. You had all of these storylines that were from print.
And correct me if I'm wrong, they were all relatively self-contained as well?
All relatively self-contained.
Yeah.
It was all basically self-contained. Then they brought out Justice League War, which was an adaptation of the original Justice League New 52 series, which was great, a good introduction to the characters and getting everything involved.
Yeah.
Since then, they've kind of then started to go, okay, we're going to create our own little animated universe in these films.
Yeah.
And that's what they've tried to do here. But what they're doing is they're borrowing from storylines from New 52, pre-New 52, post-New 52, melding it together. They're sewing it all together, and I think they're losing some of the key points of the storylines.
Yeah.
So this is effectively the third version of the universe then. So if you've got the comic book universe, the cinematic universe, and now you've got an animated cinematic universe.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think the greatest thing with these movies was that they were animated adaptations of classic comic book storylines. That was what made them so good.
And standalone as well.
And
I think that was the important thing because that's one of my biggest problems with this movie is
Yeah, absolutely.
It seems like you've come in halfway.
Yes, absolutely.
I had no idea what was going on. Stuff that characters were discovering
Yes.
actually felt like anything else that you were discovering. There was no difference between, oh my God, it's Batwoman and who the fuck is Nightwing again? Wait, where did he come from?
Dick Grayson.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, like, from my point of view,
Yes, yeah.
all of a sudden he's introduced and he's as surprising to me as Batwoman was.
Yes, and that's
Yeah, I take your point. But in the context of this storyline, it's like, oh, here's Nightwing again. It's like, what do you mean again?
Yeah, at this point, he's established, but we don't know that. And because as well, they're bringing in all of these different storylines that don't really mesh, and they were really good on their own, and they should have stayed that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, exactly. And I felt like in this movie, they were just throwing characters in. Like, here's another villain. Here's the Electrocutioner. Here's Blockbuster. Here's the Mad Hatter. Here's the Penguin. Here's this person.
Half the time, they
in.
didn't even mention the character's name. You were just supposed to know from their personal name what character they were.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think they mentioned the fact that he's the Hatter.
No, they didn't. They just called him Tetch.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right.
And I went, I'm sure that was in the Batman game. I think that's who he was.
Yeah, he was one of the...
The dead giveaway is the fact that the way the hat he's wearing.
Yeah.
I can't speak at the moment. But
He could have been Abe Lincoln impersonator.
That's one of my notes was, he looked like Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, like we don't know for sure. All those photos are in black and white. He might have had a red beard.
Yeah. And now you know what? I'm now just having flashes to the 1966 Batman show, and that would have been a character
where the Joker's wearing a moustache.
Well, yeah, that too.
Because the actor refused to shave it.
Yes.
But you know how they had these stupid characters? You know, I could imagine them having a character like, it's the president.
Yeah.
Like, that's the villain. You know?
Sort of like professional wrestling level characters.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
The evil president.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
They should redo the original Batman series as like a wrestling thing.
Oh,
A pre-scripted wrestling.
Yeah.
So they literally fight on screen during a live recording. That'd be excellent.
I'd be down
But
for
using wrestlers for the actors.
Yeah.
Okay, we contact the WWE and we contact DC. We get this ball rolling.
Yeah. We need a spin-off, which is the
They're
old...
kind of half there
hammy-
with Arrow already.
Yeah, they really are. Well, they've already done it. We'll just go now put it all in Batman
roll with it.
66.
Now just make it a touring show that goes around from stadium to stadium throughout the world.
Oh, love it. There we go.
All right, so we've already sort of talked about how in terms of like the script writing, there seems to be a bit of a hole in this movie.
Yes.
What did we actually think about the plot, though? Do we think the storyline worked, considering it is the third installment in terms of the Batman film?
No.
Unfortunately, I don't have a long view of this because I haven't seen the first two.
Right.
To me, there's a big bit of character development missing, and I started to read up about it, trying to figure out whether it was just, the fact I hadn't seen the first two movies. I didn't realize it was another two. I thought it was just like, I didn't realize Batman vs. Robin was part of this 3 series. But anyway, apparently Al Ghul, what's the girl's name? Talia Al Ghul's character really flipped around in this movie and was completely different.
Well, see, and this is where they were borrowing from different comic book series, because really at first this movie almost looks like they're trying to go down the road of
Dark Knight Strikes Again?
No. Come on, Heath. What's it called? Batman Incorporated.
Yes.
Grant Morrison's Batman Incorporated. You've got Heretic, who is the main villain in that, and then you've also got the inclusion of other Bat family, and then you've got the kidnapping of. But then you've got it mixed in with Batman Rest in Peace, which is another Grant Morrison, with Dick Grayson taking over as Batman. But they all happened in different times. So I kind of like they went
different times and different universes.
They
weren't
not even different, because Batman Incorporated was part of the pre-New 52, but then kind of got incorporated into the New 52. Batman Incorporated got incorporated.
Say that 10 times.
Yeah, exactly right.
No, don't, please. Keep going.
And that's where they're trying to sew it all together.
I'm hanging on a thread here, Carlos. Don't interrupt.
But yeah, and so it didn't make sense, and the storyline didn't. I don't think they really worked it. And then they had something completely different and new out of there, like with the whole brainwashing thing.
For me, it all felt a little too fantastical. Like, I know Batman's a superhero, but there's always sort of a degree of groundedness in the storylines.
And that's what made DC so with the new live action Batman movies. Like that groundedness and that grittiness, as it made it so much more than just a comic book movie.
Yeah. Whereas in this, it just seemed like you were saying, Heath, they just kept throwing characters out there. Like 3 of the main sort of henchmen looked like Bebop, Rocksteady, and Baxter Stockman from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
But I'm going to have to look at that again.
Yeah, it was just like, because there were mutants and then the flying
you
guy.
did. You had Tusk, who's a metahuman, then you had Firefly, and then you did. That's exactly right. You had all of that going on.
I know Firefly, but who was the other flying guy?
No idea.
Wow.
Jeez. For someone that's read that many comics, not to know.
I actually was there going, fuck, I thought that was Firefly. No, that's Firefly. Who the fuck's that? And then I didn't look it up, and someone's probably listening going, you say you read comic books and you don't know who that is. But at the same time,
they didn't bother introducing it.
They didn't even bother.
They mentioned Firefly. I'm like, okay, that's Firefly. All right, cool. And it's not hard to also notice when the guy's brandishing a flamethrower.
Yeah, that makes sense. But then he was such an ineffective character, but anyway.
Well, he always is.
And Batwing, is he canon?
So Batwing was first introduced in Batman Incorporated, but it wasn't as Lucius's son. It was as an African character. I can't remember his name. It's killing me. But then he ends up quitting, and then Lucius Fox's son. Is it David? Is it David Fox?
In any case,
he ends up taking over, finding a suit that his dad was making for Batman and taking it and doing that. So that is canon.
Right.
It was a really shit comic and got canned really quickly.
But I was going to say, what about the fact that he just took the suit and flew
and
immediately?
Just knew how to do everything with the suit.
Yeah. The only explanation they give his character is that he was in, what was it, Afghanistan?
He was a soldier.
Yeah, that's it. So he knows how to fight.
Have you ever stepped on a skateboard? How long was it before you hit the deck? Like he's climbing into a multi-million-dollar flying suit
with rockets like all over it.
Yeah,
like the wings, the arms, everywhere.
Yeah,
and it can even extend and give you more rockets.
Yeah. And this was a piece of armor that was being developed for Batman that hadn't been introduced yet, so it probably hasn't been bug tested.
Yeah,
hasn't been calibrated for Batman yet. Jesus Christ!
And that's what I mean. They were trying to just go, oh well, let's throw these in. This is good storyline. Let's get this and sew that in there too. No.
If you're going to look at that sort of criticism, if you go back to Justice League War, the same thing happens with Cyborg.
And the same, not only with Cyborg, also with Shazam.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't originally in the comic and they just threw him in. And I thought that was a waste of the character as well.
Yeah, true.
Because they could have done an entire movie just based on him and do it based on the new 52 version. Him getting his powers, being bullied, all of that stuff.
I don't understand, after all this time, why they insist on rewriting comic books. Stop doing it. You're not a professional comic book writer. Stop rewriting the comic book.
And especially when, this is being made in-house by DC.
Yeah.
This is being made in-house by DC, with Warner Brothers Entertainment. They've got the storylines. They own the storylines. Why change them?
Why fuck them out?
And that's the problem I mentioned before. They're fracturing the universe out into a third sort of iteration that seems completely unnecessary.
Exactly right.
The thing about these movies is it is a perfect vessel to get new readership. You show these stories what they would look like out of the page.
Yep.
And you can get new readers, young readers, old readers to get back into the interest of it.
Yeah.
New readers to go, hey, that's pretty cool.
Yes.
I think you're making a very good point, yeah.
And by the time they get to the pages, the stories are going to be too different, too dissimilar, that they're going to get disappointed.
Exactly.
If you're getting somebody new, they're not going to go and buy back catalogue stuff. They are going to buy the new edition.
Yeah.
And if that story doesn't line up with the new edition that's come out on the stands, you're going to lose a couple of them, if not a lot of them, straight away. Like they just invested all their time and money into watching Bad Blood, and then they're going to go, all right, I'm going to go pick up Batman, and half the characters aren't going to be there.
Yep.
Half of them are going to be different, or the whole story itself doesn't line up with anything they come across in the future.
And that's actually as well, that's true too. And they're going to be, like, if I was, say, a new comic book person, and I'd go into a comic book store saying, oh, you know what, I watched this movie Bad Blood, and I actually enjoyed it, I'd like to get an issue of that comic. The guy's going to go, it doesn't exist, but it was a melding of these storylines. Give him 4 fucking trade paperbacks, all of which are huge, and go enjoy. And the person's going to go,
where do I start?
Where do I start? I'm out.
And how much does it cost?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's $100.
Yeah. No.
or more.
See, and that's the other problem with the idea of that this movie would get old fans back into it and new fans on board.
Yeah.
Is that technically it's a bit of a mess as well. The animation I found especially was really bad, really janky.
Compared to what they've actually released recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the first thing I noticed, their opening shot was the boat going across the harbour.
Yeah.
You got the nice reflections of the harbour and the surf, or the wave coming after the boat. And that was flickering up and down horizontally.
Yeah.
It's like the boat itself was moving up and down
Yeah.
in space, and the water was still dead flat underneath it.
Yeah.
I think...
And as an opening scene, Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to hazard a guess that this was done 100% digitally.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of times I noticed the motion tween, and that's a technique you use in digital animation where basically you set a start point, you set an end point, and you tell the computer to animate between the two.
Yeah, and you let the software figure out.
Exactly, yeah. Extrapolate out from your start and end points. And you could see where that was used in this, like very clearly where the animations were tweened. The other things, like the motion blurs were very digital. You could tell that they were inserted. And there was the backgrounds. The background paintings were very, very digital. You could tell they were made in Photoshop or something.
Yeah.
For me, like the animation style is something that has been consistent though throughout a lot of the DC movies. Some more hand-drawn, others are digital. But with this run of the Batman films, they're all consistent with one another. Now, the animation isn't necessarily bad between all three. I find the fluidity of the actual movements in terms of choreographed fights.
The choreographed fights, yeah, they seem to work.
Yeah, they work really well. Certain characters don't work well, and in this particular movie, it's Batwing.
Yeah.
Batwing is just something that is almost borrowed. The way that they've drawn him is almost borrowed out of the animated series.
Yep.
And does not work with this animation style.
I don't like his laser batarangs or whatever they are.
Yeah.
They were so ineffective.
And also,
Just get one batarang. Just one, and you'll hit him, apparently.
And that too, you talk about the fantastical. Here's this character who's got an unlimited supply of batarangs coming out of his fucking arm piece.
Yeah.
No. You know what? That reminds me of the bloody, like Batman and Robin, the movie. You could also, the Arnie one.
You can kind of also argue the same point with Batman himself. He never seems to run out of gadgets. But the difference, I guess, is that he uses them more sparingly.
And he uses them one at a time. Like, he's not there go on rapid fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
He's there. He's like, get one, throw. For all we know, he only has 4 in there and he uses only 4.
Yeah. One of the things that Marvel's seem to give that real world feeling to their movies by saying things like Iron Man is not, he's not perfect. He can have failures. He has, just in terms of his suit.
Well,
I'm drawing the conclusion.
Warnings come up saying power levels are low.
Your power levels are low. You can't just go off on the ulti beam or whatever that thing is. You can't just keep using that all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And just this idea that they're just thrown characters in.
See, this is another problem I had. So the animation is really rough, and most of the exposition throughout the movie is told through sort of static conversations between 2 or more characters.
Yes.
So having this janky animation style and this very dialogue-heavy context to the story, I just felt it was really hard to follow. I stopped a lot of times and had to rewind a scene just because what was on screen threw me off what they were saying.
Yeah.
Well, the whole introduction, I think, of Batwoman, of Kate, what's her name? Catherine Kane?
Catherine Kane.
Yeah. That whole introduction of her, it's like, who is this character? Next thing you know, Batman's had all this fucking evidence on her for ages and he's got this whole detective file for her. And that's like, that shouldn't be the story. Like, you know what? If you want to have a storyline where you're introducing a character as big as that, why don't you have the movie as the investigation of who this person is? There's your movie. Don't have it go, here's a big character. We're going to tell you everything you need to know in 2 minutes.
Yeah, exposition for the sake of exposition.
Yeah.
So the beats were off, I think.
Yes.
In the way that, the story unfolded.
Yeah, and it definitely felt like 2 separate movies in the end. Like it felt like they got sort of halfway and then they started again and go, okay, now you know all the characters.
Yep.
We'll start trying to work on the conflict, and then
the main plan was, and
then it was already toward the end,
and
then all this shit happened right at the end that you were supposed to know about.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, exactly. And I think the point where they actually saved Bruce, which I've got another big issue with, that was that moment. I actually thought, the movie's over. The next thing you know, nope, several weeks later, he seems to be okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute,
There's
no,
an
he's
extra
brainwashed.
half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. And so the pacing was completely off as well. The pacing of it was completely off.
Yeah, if we're going to say that exposition was awkward, having it done twice was
Yes.
twice as awkward.
Yeah.
So we've had exposition just to get to the halfway point.
Yeah.
And then they start using it again.
Yeah.
Like, oh, by the way, Bruce is introducing this new thing where it's a flying fortress of some kind.
Yeah.
It's like,
Do you know
as
what he
if-
called it? He called it the Watchtower.
Yes, I know, yeah.
So
That's
is
Justice League, is it?
that's Justice League. That is meant to be a precursor to them having the Watchtower in space.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's got
But
a few
instead
security flaws, doesn't it?
Well,
it's
not
not-
only,
it's not
but
that
not only
good.
that, it's not something that is in space. It's just a floating restaurant.
Yeah, floating
yeah,
above
yeah.
the city, yeah.
It just looks like floating restaurant for the UN of rich people.
Yeah.
That's basically what it looked like. They had representatives, but
It's basically if you're rich enough, you can get off the ground and away from people that might give you germs.
oh god. So in terms of like the animation stuff, my point of view was a lot of the characters, I know it's the same art style as they've been using for these other movies, but a lot of the characters are either too similar or you don't get to see much emotion on their faces when they're going through a lot of these problems. You get squinty eyes or an arched mouth, and that's about the level of detail they give. So if it's a criticism of all three movies, it still stands. Like,
There was one thing I particularly noticed when Catherine Batwoman goes to meet her father on the bridge at nighttime.
Yeah, is that before he goes nuts?
yep, all right.
Yeah, because he comes to give her some information about the dude she's following, whatever. In that scene, his pupils, it just looked completely wrong. It was like, how do you fail that spectacularly at drawing somebody's eyes and not notice?
Was that their attempt to go, that's how we can tell he's brainwashed because his eyes are all weird?
Well, no, because that was
No, but
before he was
should have been
brainwashed.
before he was brainwashed.
Okay, well, there you go.
It looked like they were trying to ape sort of like an anime style.
Okay, yeah,
At
you
certain
can tell
points.
that's what they were going for. They were trying to...
There's a lot of trying in this movie, and it's supposed to be a professional development. You don't try out ideas
Yeah.
Yeah.
on a major movie.
But it makes me wonder whether the crew was changed at some point and people had to pick up the pieces, or the fact that they were trying to do something that they just didn't pull off and they didn't have the time to correct.
I think it's more that they've got some Derek who actually thought this would be a great way to get these, get these storylines in.
Or more,
And so it's poor planning from the get-go.
I would say even more so that it was just the quality control dropped.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing, the budget was 3.5 million.
That seems a lot.
Well, yeah.
Just moving on to like different, onto a different story part, which I actually fucking hated and loathed.
The hypnotism?
The hypnotism thing, and now everyone knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yeah, there was
right.
so much character reveal in this.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm this person, and obviously you're that person. Let's share identities. It is the most sacred thing for a superhero, their
Yeah,
identity.
exactly right.
Even if you've guessed it,
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah,
You can still wonder if I've let you believe the wrong thing.
exactly. And it's kind of goes,
And that was where with Nightwing just to sort of bring this woman around from potentially killing people, like, I knew you, I grew up with you. Hey, here's my face. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, man. There are subtler ways to let them know that you are that person.
Because she even says that to him. She's like, that wasn't a good idea.
yeah.
The characters in the movie even realize the
Yeah,
mistake.
and how many times do they say, stop using my name, stop using
Yes.
my name? They actually say it, and they turn it into a plot point. But it's at the same time, it's a writer acknowledging how poor they are at developing their own storyline.
Yeah.
There are subtler ways. You could just easily mention something that only she would know, and then that would spark it in her head. Oh, fuck, I think that's Dick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's a classic ploy and should have been used.
Like when at the end of Dark Knight Rises, when he's in the Batwing and he just says to Gordon, it's like, I was just a scared little boy who you helped, give his, give your
Exactly.
kid warm.
Although that is too vague.
Yeah, but you know what though?
How many little kids would he have helped?
Exactly.
Oh, but he could tell.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not-
I think, that's the perfect way to
Yeah.
do it. I think that was specific enough that, well, you could see in Gordon's face as soon as he heard it. It
knew.
clicked.
He's
He was
like Bruce Wayne. Yeah. Who else has got that kind of money?
There's only a few people who could afford the ship we're flying around in right now. So I was going to say that there's some awkward character development as well, like the fact that they hammered so hard on Batwoman's sexuality, and it just seems so awkward. It's like, yeah, we're progressive. She's a lesbian. Look, here's her lesbian lover.
Yeah.
Like, let's have her have a fight scene in her underwear for no goddamn reason.
Yeah.
I'll give them credit for trying to introduce a lesbian lead character, but you're right. Yeah, it was very ham-fisted.
But that's also, as well, once again, because they just introduced this character in, and we're meant to know who she is.
Yeah.
And so they're quickly going, well, here's the big reveal. She's also gay. Here's another one. She's this. Here's another one.
And she goes to bars.
Yeah, she goes
Here's
to
an
bars with
archetype.
police officers. Done. You know?
So this police officer, are we supposed to know who she is?
Yeah. It's Montoya.
Which is?
Renee Montoya. She's one of the key.
In the movies, is that Montoya in the...
Yeah, you know, in Dark Knight Returns, the one who she ends up getting killed by Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in the comic books, she's actually a big mainstay character as like a police detective working with Batman on things like and whatnot.
Yeah, but she's not in this 3-movie series.
No, that was the first time we saw her.
That was her introduction, and it was handled so poorly.
Yeah, totally.
But completely in keeping with the rest of this movie's handling of characters.
So it's at least consistent in its inconsistency.
Exactly, yeah.
That's silly. Yeah.
What I was going to get at is that they introduce, like you said before, Heath, it's almost playing on the fact that it is trying to do Batman Incorporated.
Yep.
They introduce this new Batwoman.
Yep.
To me, the focus should have been on her. Make this movie about her.
Yeah.
She's involved, as you say, to find Batman. But really, it should have been her movie.
Yeah.
Trying to find Batman because he saved her life.
So where did she get all of her equipment from?
She's ex-military.
Why has it got a bat on it when she says, I don't want anything to do with the bats?
Yeah, there was one line she had at some point. She's like,
she goes, just
don't
because
wanna
I
be-"
dress like this doesn't mean I'm part of your cult.
Yeah, it's like, well, yes, it does.
Yes,
That's
it does.
Yeah.
That's
exactly
what it
why
means,
you're calling
moron.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you calling yourself Batwoman? You've stolen the identity for a reason so that people
Exactly.
fear you when you turn up.
Here's another thing. Why does Batgirl appear at the end?
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Because whoever was doing this wants to say, exactly like they do in between X-Men and any of the other Avengers type movies, they want to claim a character.
Right, yeah.
They're putting their mitts on them and saying, this is my character for my next movie.
'Cause the next movie's
no
gonna
one else is allowed to use it.
Exactly. It's going to be called Rise of Batgirl.
But honestly,
I don't actually know if
like-
that's the case, but if that is the name of it, fucking owning that shit.
but like honestly, why ham-fist her right in the end? Like it just made no sense, and it was like this happy-go-lucky. Oh, she found a place in the world.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go do my thing now.
Yeah.
I'm glad she found it.
Yeah, so all right.
what?
So by the point she's introduced, you've got Batman, you've got Nightwing, you've got Robin, Damian Wayne, and you've got the future version of Damian Wayne. So like, is it not enough to have had 4 or 5 people from the family? You know, like,
and then we've all got the futuristic modern versions of their suits where it's all dark colors, and they stick Batgirl in the classic old yellow and purple.
that's a very good point. Yeah.
Why?
Why would she do it? She's just a fucking beacon for bullets.
Yeah. Now, I also wanted
a great
to
fucking
bring up one point that you mentioned before, Lee, which was everyone knows who Batman is now because of the brainwashing, or was it you, Heath? I can't quite remember. And you guys were talking about how it's like a melding of all these books. Did anyone think that when they broke into the vault that it was directly stolen out of Dark Knight Rises?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a direct steal.
Yes. Absolutely. And
Even to the point where they blew the door from underneath.
yes, and that the whole thing there as well is they went, okay, we're going to take this, sew it all together and make a movie. No, it doesn't work.
Was there a homage at one point where Batman rescues Robin to the cover of an issue where Robin died?
Yeah.
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 So that was another like sort of...
That was the homage to the my brain just stopped working. Death in the Family.
Yeah, right, yeah. Because I recognized it straight away, but I'm like, well, hang on, why? Yeah, it just seemed like they threw as much ideas at this as possible and didn't spend the time to make it coherent.
When I was going through this movie, they were trying to hint that we knew who Heretic was, and that
Oh yeah,
I've
I'm
never
thinking-
even seen him before.
and I was like,
if you haven't read
is
Batman
that-
Incorporated, you wouldn't have.
Is that,
I'm
is
glad I'm
that
not the only
actually
one.
Batman? Like, is that a clone of Batman who's beefier or something like
Yeah.
that? I didn't quite understand it. And then I was like, how did they figure out how to get into the vault? Maybe that is Batman. So what the explanation is that they copied it out of his head using a laser and put it on a USB drive? Is that how they figured out how to get into the vault?
Well, they would have figured it out from there, probably. Yeah, like they're trying to brainwash
the
it into
actual
his head.
explanation was that he had been broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talia said, look, you've got to get past his actual trauma. Get him when he was an innocent child, and then he'll tell you everything.
Yeah.
Wasn't that after they'd gone to the vault?
Actually, shit, it was. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
They turned up with all of the bombs and everything, and then they're having the discussion during the interrogation.
Yeah, it
Actually,
was.
that actually plays into my thought that I was about to say before we got into that line of topic, which was, it's Talia al Ghul. She already knows who he is.
That's true.
You just follow the guy. You follow the guy, and you send people to infiltrate.
Yeah.
And figure this shit out. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
you,
true.
you really don't need to brainwash
she's-
him for
surely
weeks.
she already knows who his supplier is, like who Lucius is.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
would know it all.
Of course she would.
Yeah, that's true.
Now the next question is, why brainwash Bruce? Why do it at all? Is it just the whole idea of I want him, he will be mine?
Well, remember, because at the end, then he talks to all the people in the rich people UN and brainwashes them. So her idea was to get the League of Shadows across the world. It was all masterminded to get control of all those the UN people. That was the end game.
And what, to remove the Queen off the chessboard by taking Batman out of the picture?
Yeah.
Well, I think Batman, Bruce Wayne was the fulcrum, the way that they were going to be able to do that.
Right.
So, they had to fully control Bruce Wayne, Batman to be able to, finish the plan.
The plan seems like it's out of left field. It seems like she had the plan before she had all of her forces in place. Like, picking up the Hatter doesn't necessarily seem like, I don't know, it's like she would have needed to know that she had the Hatter already before she could put the plan in place, but it didn't seem like he was one of the major characters. It just seemed like another henchman.
Well, yeah, he was being used for his ability, his mind control.
Yeah. It just didn't
abilities.
seem like he fit the rest of the group so much.
And I think this is where we go.
It should have been his plan. You know what I mean? Like, it should have been his idea of mind
I
control.
see what you mean. Yeah.
I'm not very eloquent this morning, but
No,
yeah.
but it seems odd that, she's come up with this plan that integrates him so essentially without him having some sort of say in it.
Well, he wouldn't have to. He wouldn't have a say anyway because he'd be held against his will.
Yeah, but
okay.
it didn't seem like he was.
No.
Well,
He
actually,
was
no,
autonomous.
but it wasn't there actually a point where he does actually, he's using, I think it's when they've got Robin, and he does do this little monologue of saying something along the lines of, I'm kind of being forced to do this stuff.
Oh, yeah, it might have been in passing.
Yeah, it was it was a throwaway comment, and I think it was so she has
This
kind of
movie
kidnapped
is
him.
almost throwaway. Like,
It really is. No, it really, really is.
Yeah. So as we're saying, like the way they broke into the vault and things like that, again, it just looks like they've cut and pasted a whole lot of different movie ideas, and they're not thought through. It's not written by one writer. It's actually written by a writer that was just tying comic books together.
Yeah.
He said, here's all of the scripts from these comic books. Just write the glue in between. That's all we need. Thank you. Goodbye.
You know what it feels like? They've got a bunch of executives in a room, sat them down with each of these comic series and gone, all right, guys, come up with a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, yeah. And that's exactly right. Because they would have gone, here's all our Grant Morrison stuff. Let's get some of these story arcs. Let's get a
to
bit
me,
of this in.
it's either that or the simple fact of the guy funding it just went, I like this bit in this story. I like this bit in this story, and that, and this.
Do you remember when we watched
Put it together for my son.
Make it work.
the making? Was it the making of the Death of Superman? Or-
Yeah.
So we saw that the main publicist, the main producer, had in his mind what he wanted to see on screen.
Yeah.
And he was telling the writers to make it happen, and they're like, oh, it doesn't quite work.
That was the whole thing with the giant robot spider, wasn't it?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
wanted a giant spider.
And then he finally
they're like,
got it in Wild Wild West.
Oh, God. Yeah, and they went backwards and forwards to try and make this guy's vision work, but it's got nothing to do with the story they're trying to put across.
Well, he even admitted that he'd never even read comics, huh?
Yeah.
So he had no
No,
vested
that was
interest
one of
in-
the writers.
Yeah, one of the
right.
third writer had never read a
And he was
comic.
actually proud of the fact that he never read one.
Yeah, yeah.
I hated that.
Sorry to go back. Well, not really sorry. But that other character, like who that was, that flying one, that kind of Killer Moth. Now, you may not have heard of Killer Moth because he's a fucking pointless character villain that was back around in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
And they haven't really used since the 90s.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was just a throwaway
They
character.
tried to like revitalize a character and made him look exactly like Firefly.
Yeah. And
Just with
didn't-
tech rather than
And
with the
didn't
flamethrower.
name him
Yep.
through
It
the
feels
entire
like-
movie, and then threw him up there just so that we could see that Nightwing was as strong as two other flyers.
Yeah, and can I just say, this is what I love too. I'm reading just his little bio.
Yeah.
And it's like, Killer Moth is not to be confused with another Batman villain, Firefly, who wears a similar costume.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yes, apparently he is to be.
Yeah, I
I'm
was gonna
sorry. You can write it as much as you like, but
You know,
he is.
you know what it almost reminds me of? Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, Demogoblin.
Yeah.
What? Huh?
How many goblins do we have here?
And
At
they
least
all
the-
have flying gliders. Like
they all
But
throw
at least they
pumpkins.
try and change their color schemes up. They try and be very specific about it. These guys, they didn't name one of them, and then sort of did give him. Oh, he's bright green. Okay, good. He's not the same one as this red one over here. But wait, why?
Yeah, he was literally just there to fill out the roster.
even his
Is it-
face mask is
Exactly
fucking
the same.
identical.
Is it so that they can have an even number of good guys and bad guys because they wanted to add so many bats? They
That's-
just had to eventually add more villains just to cover up the holes they'd left.
It certainly sounds like that would be an approach.
They honestly did not need so many fucking wasted, useless villains when they had the nunges.
Yeah, well, exactly right.
Honestly,
Yeah, that is the entire highlight of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh God, they're nunges.
it was essentially it was like, okay, so they figure out that Batman is being hidden in
A nunnery.
Our Lady of Perpetual Graces.
yeah,
nunnery.
like
A
a
perpetual
convent,
exemption.
a convent situated in the middle of a cliff, and
So one thing that I just want to say about that cliffside thing,
yeah,
it was a ancient fucking looking convent, and it had steel girders holding the back up.
retrofitted.
Maybe. Who knows?
But anyway, so they go up to this convent, and as they're approaching, they're like, "Oh wow, okay." Nuns are all sitting on the rooftop waiting for them, and they all just pull out swords.
Well, first they had guns.
Yeah, that's
Nightwing,
right.
Nightwing's like, oh, nuns with guns.
Yeah.
Right.
Which sounds like a really bad fucking
that's
early
actually-
90s music video.
Well, it's actually a movie.
Nuns
Nuns with
with
guns.
guns.
So
Really?
anyway, yeah,
Bad cow
it's a
pun.
shitty old movie. But out of nowhere, when they're in the middle of the courtyard, then they pull out swords, and there's just like this 1 second reference, nunges,
Yeah. They're nunges.
and yeah.
I did chuckle at that.
That was fun.
But anyway, I think it's time to give our rating on this one.
Yep. I was
Really?
gonna say-
But there's so much more to rip.
yeah.
I know.
It's like we didn't even talk about the voice acting.
Actually, no, I have to give it to the voice acting.
Actually, yeah, look, the voice acting.
It's been consistent and consistently good.
The voice acting isn't too bad. I mean,
It's just bad that what they've got to work
Yeah.
with.
I don't necessarily like the fact that there's only one voice sound at a time. There's only one. There's no grunts or groans from people being hit. It is clearly just one voice at one time giving one line, and then there's a response.
yeah.
And it doesn't feel natural. It feels like on a two-way radio, and you got to wait for the other person to finish before you can say your line. It doesn't come across natural.
Yeah.
It's not natural conversation.
The note I've got is that it was competent, if a little flat.
Yeah.
So, you could tell they were just given their lines and they're told
probably-
to act it out,
They probably didn't even believe in the script that they were reading.
Yeah,
So
well,
Oh, it must have been handed to them in pieces because it doesn't make sense. Anyway, and maybe I'll go back and look at the other two movies, but if it was going off this as an example, I might not.
yeah. All right. So who's going to start this one?
I'll start if you like.
All right.
I'm going to give it... trying to compare to other stuff we've had is
Yeah.
definitely not a Tank Girl. Like it's streets above that.
Yeah.
But they've damaged something that you guys have really expressed to me that is some really excellent storytelling, and it's not that. It's piecemeal. It's damaging to their brand in the end because people are not going to be watching this movie and going, yeah, I'm going to read Batman, and then going to go and buy a Batman comic and go, well, this isn't anything like what I saw.
Yeah.
It's not the same level of fidelity. It's not the same level of storytelling. Like storytelling for me, Batman is always he's an investigator, and there was almost no investigation. It was here's the answer thrown at you. There was no chance for you to figure out what was going to happen next because there was no hint of what was coming next. That bloody watchtower coming out of nowhere just threw me for six. I was like, where did this come from?
Completely.
And where's that reference? In the back of my head, I went, I know watchtower is a thing. But anyway, so I'm pulling it off the bottom. It's not a tank girl. It's not a 0, and it's not a minus. It's probably going to be a half a banana for me.
All right. Half a banana it is.
It wasn't enjoyable as a whole movie.
Yeah. Look, you probably hear, I did not really enjoy this at all. I thought you get these great storylines and you're throwing them all together in a blender and hoping that they mesh, and they don't. They're all their own storylines. They should stay, and you could have done a really good version of them if you just kind of stuck with the source material. You know what? Recommending going to see the others? No. Recommending watching this? No. If you want to get the good storylines, go get the comics of Batman and Son. Go get the comics of Batman Rest in Peace. Go get the comics of, and by the way, this is all Grant Morrison, fucking fantastic writer, Batman Incorporated. Get those comics, read those storylines because they're freaking amazing, and you'll enjoy it a lot more than you'll enjoy this movie. I'm going to give it 1 banana.
All right, Dan.
There you go. All right. Well, generally the same sorts of comments. It was very ham-fisted. It was felt like it was put together at the last minute. There was way too many characters. The exposition was janky. There's really not much to like here. Whenever I see like a DC animated movie, I always compare it to the animated series from the mid-90s.
Yeah.
And then some of the standalones like Under the Red Hood.
Yes.
Those kind of stories.
Yeah.
Nothing is better in this movie than what has come previously. The animation's worse. The voice acting, everything about it is a step down from what they've done previously. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. I'd say go back to some of the earlier animated movies and the 90s series. They're much better just overall. So I'm going to go half a banana.
Wow.
As well.
Yeah, at this point, I'd say the Flashpoint Paradox was probably the best one I've ever seen.
That was great. That was really well done. If you haven't, we'll talk after.
On a similar note to Dan, this movie isn't the best. It's passable if you just chuck it on in the background and you do your own thing. And occasionally when you hear a big loud bang, just look up and watch the fight sequence. Because in all honesty, that's the only thing that's of relevance in these movies, this movie. And with the past two movies, it's almost the same. But I do have to admit, the introduction of Damien into the first of these three films is not a bad movie. Not the best, but not bad. And in the second film, there's the introduction of the Court of Owls, not done to its best, but it's interesting. This one didn't really bring anything to the table, except for that one joke. And if you're going to do anything, I'd really recommend watching the previous movies. You mentioned, Dan, Under the Red Hood. That is actually my favourite.
Great,
of
that one.
all the Batman animated movies that they've done in this particular run. If I was to recommend anything else, Wonder Woman is my absolute favourite. It just really stands out there. On top of that, I would say Green Lantern's First Flight. That is really whimsical and fantastic. In terms of the Justice League movies, man,
maybe we should do
any
reviews.
of them.
Maybe we should do some reviews on those.
Pick any of them. The one that I think is the out of those that fail is probably War compared to all of them.
What I like about the Justice League movies is the writing, the interactions between the characters.
Yeah,
I think I've seen one or two of them, and they just flow so much better.
So I'm not going to be too harsh. Like, it is still kind of passable, but it falls short. I'm going to give this 1.5. So
there we go. Wow, that's pretty low.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a tank girl.
Yeah,
it's pretty damn low.
Yeah,
yeah. It is probably our lowest scoring
non-tank girl.
Yeah.
Damn, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good for DC Animated at all, which I normally say you should watch them.
Pick up your act, DC.
Yeah, totally.
Well, they are doing the Killing Joke, so...
Oh, well, yes.
When that one comes out, we'll definitely be doing that.
If they fuck that up, I will be so disappointed.
You know what, though? You've got...
they won't, because too much is riding
and
on
Bruce
it.
Timm's working on it, so he'll go, no, we're treating it right.
Yeah.
So it'll be good.
All right, so...
Again, that'll be a standalone type thing.
Standalone.
So it's back to that same formula that worked.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if he'll end up using his 90s animation style with that particular movie.
Supposedly, it's going to have a dark little... Yeah. Everything's rumor mill at the moment. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we are Theatre Gorillas. That was Batman Bad Blood. And we'll see you next week. And don't forget to stay on for the end of the theme song to find out what this week's movie, Who Am I, is. Bye!
See ya.
Ciao.
See ya.
All right, so you stayed on for the end of the theme song to find out what this week's movie, Who Am I, is. And it is...
Groundhog Day!
Jesus Christ,
stop.
Heath, you got to stop doing that.
Oh, fuck's sake.
I thought we
You
said
will
last
blow
week.
the microphone. I am not kidding.
I thought we said last week we are going to take the mic off.
I'm starting to think we need to. Anyway, the movie is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Next
done
week.
in 1968 by
Stanley Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick.
I was going to say next week if Heath's microphone seems a little weird, it's because he's using a mid-90s grey chat headset that came with free with a HP PC.
I'm being degraded.
Yeah. We'll just tape it to the table and tell him it's plugged in.
Okay, promise won't do it again. Maybe.
I'm going to hold you to that.
We've already all you have to say is Groundhog Day, and then Dan can cut in the one that you yelled at the mic for it.
Yeah.
So everyone at home will get to enjoy it, but Carlos can still retain his microphone.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.
This podcast is recorded and produced by Theatre Gorillas. Edited by Dan Clark.
Nobody else going to say goodbye?
No, fuck him.
All right, fine.
I haven't stopped recording.
See ya.
I was waiting on one of you two. All right, bye.
See ya.
I won't do that again.